Conservatives blame the government for a full-blown recession, while the government gets ready to unwrap its AI policy. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
With the calendar counting down until MPs leave Ottawa for the summer, two issues are expected to be front and center in the days ahead on Parliament Hill: the economy and AI. On Friday, StatsCan released the latest GDP report for Canada, showing a consecutive quarterly decline in economic growth, meaning the Canadian economy is in a technical recession. And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was quick to pin the blame for that on Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Mark Carney is now the only leader in the G7 to have plunged his economy into recession. He's been Prime Minister for 4 quarters now. The economy has shrunk in 3 of those quarters. He's the only G7 leader who can say that. The economy is smaller today than when Mark Carney became Prime Minister a year ago. He's the only G7 leader who can say that. He's been, Mark Carney will like to make excuses today. But let me ask him a question. But before I do, I'm going to actually quote back to him something he said to one of you. Mark Carney said to one of the journalists, "Rosie, look inside yourself." Well, I'm going to ask Mark Carney to look inside himself, and I'll ask him directly. Mr. Carney, if it really is global factors and tariffs that have given Canada the only recession in the G7, why have France, Italy, Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States all avoided a recession?
And that was the message Conservative MPs carried into the House of Commons, going after the Minister of Finance, François-Philippe Champagne, who defended Canada's economic record as he sparred with Conservative MP Arpan Khanna.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' message to Canadians is suck it up, buttercup, because excuses on tariffs won't work anymore. Canada is the only country in the G7 to be in a recession. Food bank usage is at record highs. Families are cutting back on their groceries. They're canceling their summer plans, and they're skipping meals just to get by. But what does this Prime Minister do? He blows $200,000 on fancy meals for himself. So does the Prime Minister not realize that this is Canada, not Brookfield, and the taxpayers are not his personal bankers?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it is disconcerting to see the Conservative talking down the Canadian economy, Mr. Speaker. I have confidence in the Canadian economy, Mr. Speaker. I have confidence in our workers. I have confidence in our industry. I have confidence in our plan, Mr. Speaker. We have made record investment, generational investment in infrastructure, in housing, in productive and innovation. We have made generational investment to support workers. We have made investments to support Canadians in terms of affordability, Mr. They can shout as much as they want. Canadians know that we have their back.
Tim Hodgson, the federal energy minister, is also defending the Carney government's economic record, while he accuses his Conservative opponents, like Alberta MP Stephanie Kuzy, of spinning conspiracy theories.
Well, Canadians have had it with this Prime Minister's costly credit card budget. The deficit is $65.3 billion, and this year Canadians will pay $58.7 billion on debt interest. Food inflation rose 3.8% in April, with gas prices surging 28.6% last month alone. Canada is the only G7 nation in a recession. The Prime Minister is more focused on his American stock portfolio and his friends at Brookfield than Canadians. How many more negative quarters of growth will it take for him to change course?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, in that question, I think there were at least 3 conspiracy theories going on in that head. What we're doing is we're trying to build Canada strong. That's why we're building nuclear in Ontario. That's why we're building new wind and transmission in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. That's why we're building new LNG and mines in British Columbia. That's why we're building everywhere across this country. That's why we're working with provinces and Indigenous peoples to respond to what we can control. They should get off the conspiracy theories and start working to build Canada.
The Conservatives want an emergency debate in the House of Commons on the state of the economy. So far, those calls have been rejected by the government, but any decision to hold an emergency debate is ultimately up to the Speaker of the House. So while we wait to hear from the Speaker on that issue, Canadians will soon have a chance to see what this government is thinking about when it comes to the future of AI, artificial intelligence. The minister responsible for AI policy is former broadcaster Evan Solomon, and he is expected to unveil the government's long-awaited update to AI policy sometime this week. Speaking at a recent summit on AI in Toronto, Solomon said AI will leave no industry untouched and that it's not just a tech file anymore.
It's a productivity file, it's an economic file, it's a public service file, it's a workforce file, it's a trust file, it's a sovereignty file, it's a governance file. As I like to say, the ministry was started a year ago as a vertical, build up the AI and quantum industries in Canada, sovereign, and it has become a horizontal file as well, where it intersects across every single industry. And a year ago, when you talk to people in healthcare and in agriculture and in defense, AI was, okay, let us know. Now it's all they talk about.
The Conservatives have some thoughts on what Canada's AI policy should be as well. Party leader Pierre Poilievre said his biggest concern is misuse of AI by the government.
We're very worried about excessive government power for surveillance and for control of the population. We need to have a free and open society where Canadians can use the tools that AI offers to make their lives affordable, empowered, make their paychecks bigger and their lives less complicated. At the same time, we need to make sure that the government does not abuse that technology for its own control.
As for Prime Minister Mark Carney's day today, he will tour a home building site in his Ottawa riding later this afternoon in about 2 hours from now. And then he will go to Toronto, where it's expected he will talk about what his government is doing to fight anti-Semitism in Canada. I'm Now You Know. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow, and this is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
In politics in Ottawa today, the day is already off to a very partisan start with the Conservative Party leader, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, about an hour ago, stepping to the microphones and demanding once again an emergency debate in the House of Commons on what he is calling the Liberal recession. This is something that the Conservative leader pounced on first on Friday, then again this morning after the latest GDP report came out that showed the country in a technical recession. Poilievre says it's a full-blown recession and that it's happening while the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is missing in action. So after launching into an attack in both official languages, Mr. Poilievre did take some questions from members of the press gallery. Let's listen here.
On Mr. Trump's trip to the United States, have 3 rounds of trade talks set. They've wrapped up the first one. What do you think about where Canada is? And if you were Prime Minister, what specifically would you do on that file?
Well, where is Mark Carney on trade with the U.S.? Nobody knows. I mean, and depends what time of day you ask. I mean, one day he says he wants a full and complete rupture with the United States. The next day he says he wants to make America, in his words, great again. So which is it? He says one day that he thinks integration has made us subservient, and then another he says he wants more integration. Mark Carney's been hiding from the negotiating table for the last 6 months while the Mexicans have been eating our lunch. As Mr. Carney likes to say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And right now, because Carney's been hiding from the negotiating table, he's made all of us on the menu while Mexico and the United States advance their interests at our expense. Frankly, I'm the only leader who actually has published a plan to deal with the Canada-U.S. renegotiations. I've said we need to build up our leverage, which includes our natural resources of oil and minerals, create a national reserve of those minerals, and then tell the Americans that they could potentially have privileged access to buy those minerals in times of need in exchange for tariff-free access to their markets. My mission will be a tariff-free trade arrangement, tariff-free on autos, aluminum, steel, lumber, and everything else, reciprocal free trade, using our resources as leverage in order to get that. And that is what we need to get to do right now because the Mexicans are eating our lunch.
AI investment in infrastructure development has been credited with keeping the U.S. economy out of a recession. The government's AI strategy is expected to come out this week. Do you think Canada needs to focus more on attracting AI investment and infrastructure development to try to achieve similar results for our economy?
Well, I think Mark Carney and the Liberals need to get out of the way. What will bring the AI infrastructure? Affordable energy. If you do, for example, a ChatGPT search, it consumes about 9 times more electricity than a Google search. These massive data centers require enormous amounts of energy, which means that we have to expand natural gas, nuclear, and hydroelectricity. What's standing in the way of that? The answer is a costly liberal regulatory regime that blocks things from getting built. We need to repeal C-69, get rid of the industrial carbon tax so that we can power the future of data centers and compute and become a superpower in both resources and AI.
Can I ask you on the economy? For the USMCA July 1st review, and what's your expectation out of Dominic LeBlanc, who is headed to Washington this week?
Well, I've already told you how we're preparing. We published a very clear plan to get a tariff-free agreement. I've already did an extensive tour of the United States to win support for tariff-free trade. Frankly, I've done a lot more in opposition than Mr. Carney's been doing in government to promote tariff-free trade. I don't have any expectations for Dominic LeBlanc's trip. He does these trips where he goes and socializes and comes back empty-handed. Yet while the Mexicans have been in formal talks for 6 months, Mark Carney has been gallivanting around giving speeches filled with dazzling buzzwords that achieve nothing but the worst economy in the G7. Unfortunately, right now, all we have is a gigantic liberal recession here at home and no tariff-free access abroad.
Sir, on the economy, can I ask you on your position on the economy? The polls show that despite your bleak picture that you're painting, Canadians trust Mark Carney to deal with the economy, to address jobs. So why do you think that is? Why do you think that despite what you're saying, your pitch is not resonating with them?
Well, it is, and I think what's going to happen is the illusion of Mark Carney is very quickly going to collide with the reality of Mark Carney. And that reality is that he is the only G7 leader who has put his economy into a recession. He's the only G7 leader whose economy has shrunk in 3 of the last 4 quarters. He's the only G7 leader whose economy is smaller today than it was a year ago. He leads the economy with the worst household debt, the worst housing costs, and the worst food price inflation. That is the real record of Mark Carney. It is not the illusion presented in the media, but it is the reality. And I think in the long-term run, reality will collide with the illusion. One last question. By the way, you're all shouting at me. Wait a sec here. You're all, whoa, wait. You're all shouting at me. How many questions have I taken? Is anybody keeping count? Can somebody know? Oh, wait a sec here. How many questions? We're saying 8. If I could, I just want to point things out. 8 questions, which is 8 questions more than Mark Carney has taken.
All right. Mr. Poilievre is partisan attack dog self today outside the House of Commons on Parliament Hill today. We would like to play you some audio of the Prime Minister speaking about this economic report that came out on Friday and about the technical recession. He has yet to make any public remarks about that. As I mentioned, he's not expected in the House today. He has an event in his riding. He'll tour a home building site in Nepean, and then off to Toronto with this major speech on fighting anti-Semitism. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Oil and gasoline prices have been moving in different directions with renewed attacks between the United States and Iran, with Iran calling off peace talks with the United States. It says because of Israel's incursions further into Lebanon, the price of oil is way up today. It's up about 8% in trading, with WTI oil futures at $94.30 US a barrel. But at the gas stations of the nation, there's been some relief over the last week or so. The average price for gas in Nova Scotia is down to about $1.70 province-wide. Across Ontario, the average price is about $1.68 a liter. In Kitchener, it's about $1.69.9. Alberta has the lowest gas prices in Canada with an average of $1.63 a liter. In Calgary today, the average gas price is about $1.60.8, while the average gas price across BC is $1.91. As for the financial markets so far this year, it is June 1st after all. Stock markets have been performing pretty well so far this year as we get into the sixth month of the year. The TSX is up 9.6% so far this year. The Dow up 6% year to date. NASDAQ up 16%. And the S&P 500 is up about 10%. In sports, the Toronto Blue Jays, I think, would rather just forget that this weekend ever happened. They dropped a pair of games on both Saturday and Sunday to the Baltimore Orioles and really didn't look very good in either game. On Saturday, it was all about the bullpen. Jeff Hoffman came into the ninth inning with a 4-run lead. The Jays up 5-1, and they lost 6-5. Final score yesterday, 9-5, with the Jays giving up 5 runs in the third. And things are not getting any easier for the Jays, opening a 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves tomorrow on the road in Atlanta. The Braves are the best team in baseball so far this season, and the only team with 40 wins. They lead the National League East by 9 games. Kevin Gausman expected to be on the mound tomorrow night for Toronto. Game time 7:15 on Sportsnet, Sportsnet Plus, and all across the Blue Jays radio network. And lots of happy hockey fans in Kitchener. The Kitchener Rangers did it. They downed the Everett Silvertips 6-2 to win the Memorial Cup, the biggest prize in major junior hockey in Canada. Cameron Reid is the captain of the Kitchener Rangers.
Oh, it feels awesome. Absolutely amazing. It's just an incredible feeling to do this for Kitchener. This is the best organization with the best CHL fans, and it's awesome. It's gonna be a fun couple of days going forward.
Kitchener's first Memorial Cup since capturing it back in 2003. Next year's Memorial Cup will be at the Sleeman Center in Guelph, home to the OHL's Guelph Storm. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers
on News Radio.
It's time for our Monday Newsday panel, focusing on federal politics today with the help of Melanie Paradis, President, Texture Communications, and welcome back. Great to hear from you. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Good. And Tom Parkin, longtime political commentator, NDP strategist. How are you, Tom? Good to hear from you.
I'm doing well. Thanks very much.
Yeah, welcome back to you as well. Well, Melanie, let's start with you. The economy is in a technical recession, and yet Prime Minister Carney has yet to speak about that. No statements, no questions. He has some events for later today. Unclear if he'll be taking questions from news reporters. But what do you think about the lack of communication from the Economist Prime Minister of Canada on the economy being in a recession?
Yeah, and it does seem on the media veil notice that he's not taking questions. We'll see what happens later today. It's a losing argument to put him out there to explain a technical versus regular recession because people are hurting by the financial downturn. And the real number that gets my attention is around household savings being down. This is especially important before the summer. So in the summer, we traditionally experience what the economists will call a summer bump, which is due to like construction activity, agricultural activity, and tourism. There's all sorts of things that are happening in the summer that cause our economy to do a bit better. But if Canadians don't have the savings that they need, then they won't be able to plan those summer vacations. They won't be able to plan to send their kids to camp. So this recession then could actually drag on into another quarter through the summer. Meanwhile, Canadians are wondering whether their teenager can get a summer job this year, if their kid can go to summer camp, if they can even afford to fill up their car with gas for a road trip. And as a parent, I'm acutely aware that you only get so many summers with your kids. So it's especially painful for families across Canada right now when they're struggling to figure out what they can afford to do with that precious time.
I mean, Tom, this has been in the news cycle now since early Friday morning. Nothing Friday, nothing Saturday, nothing Sunday, nothing on X or Twitter, no forward guidance videos on YouTube. And as of today, we're not expecting to see him in the House. We'll see if he takes some questions from news reporters or maybe make some statements about this. But this is supposed to be his arena, the economy. Now it's in a recession, and he hasn't said anything. What do you think about that?
Well, it's tough to be the bearer of bad news and to try and explain bad news, especially when he's supposed to be the one who's delivering us from this. But here's what I think is partly going on. Mr. Carney's view on the economy is really focused on this major projects and initiatives. And that's fine. I think most of us would say, in general, like there may be specific projects that we individually may like or prefer or whatever. But in general, I think we all go, yeah, but we've got to, build our infrastructure. We've got to do those things. So let's giddy up. But those take a long time to get going, right? We were talking about the pipeline just before joining this segment. Well, that isn't even going to be proposed until this summer, and then it'll be a long time before there are actually any jobs. And it's not just that. There's many other projects that are being talked about that in a year we have seen nothing. We haven't got a project in yet, and they will take a long time. So I think the problem here is urgency. We've got 1.5 million people unemployed in this country right now. We'll have the labor force survey out this Friday, I believe. We'll see if it's increased. And as Melanie has pointed out, people are feeling like they don't have money to spend, or at least, especially lower income folks who spend a lot of their money on food, don't feel like they have the money to spend, and that's bad for the economy too. So there's a lot of short-term negative stuff going on, and the Prime Minister has I would just say this. If I was him, I'd be scouring the country, working with premiers to say, what do you got for shovel-ready projects that are meaningful and valuable?
Right.
And let's get on them. Let's start building some jobs and getting people back to work and paying taxes and getting a paycheck and spending some money back into the economy.
Yeah. And we could call it the Economic Action Plan, and we could put signs up all over the place, Tom.
Could do that.
All right. Okay. Look, I mean, from a political communications point of view, never let a crisis go to waste. This is, sadly, it's kind of a gift politically for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to have the economy in a recession. It gives you some material to work with. He's calling it a full-blown liberal recession. How fair is that, Melanie?
Look, Canadians don't care about what is a technical or a full recession. They care about what they are experiencing. They don't say that they experienced a technical mortgage payment or a technical late credit card bill or a technical tank of gas. Like, I'm a business owner. I'm not going to say that I have a technical late payroll payment. You're either in a recession or you're not. Okay, we're in a recession. Canadians can feel it. They know everything costs more. They're struggling right now. The last thing that they want to hear is the economist prime minister telling them what a technical recession is. So Pierre Poilievre is absolutely right to be calling it a full-blown liberal recession because that's what it is, and because he knows that it's a losing argument to say otherwise. But the real challenge here is the prime minister's brand is built around economic competence. That's what he was elected to do. And for the past year, we've seen nothing but hardship and headwinds for this country economically. And so that eventually is going to, we haven't seen it erode much, to be honest, with his polling numbers, but it is going to come home to roost.
Okay. But is it hyperbole, Tom Parkin, to call it a full-blown liberal recession? What do you think?
Well, I think it is a bit. We can't ignore the fact of what's happening to us because of the president to the south of us. We can't ignore that. Now, that just makes the argument, I think, that I presented before, the urgency argument, even more important. But I don't think it's fair to say that at this point that this is a liberal recession. There's a lot of factors on it, but I do believe it's fair to say the Liberal Prime Minister obviously is responsible for doing everything he can, including, as I suggested, scouring the country, looking for shovel-ready projects and ways to get people back to work to resolve it, and not just being happy that, we're going to have a major project up that's going to put a shovel in the ground in, 2032. So I think it is a little overplayed. Mr. Poilievre also hasn't really indicated what he would do different. In fact, at one point, he was sort of praising Mr. Carney for adopting his own policies. So that's a little odd. And I would say as well, I would like to see Avi Lewis and the NDP step up into this gap and say, I have an approach that could create some jobs, and I want Canadians to hear about it. I think that would be a very, very timely thing for him to do.
Very interesting today, and I wanted to ask you about this as well, Tom Parkin. New liaison strategies poll has the NDP up to 16%, the highest they've been in a very long time in the polls. Be right back. We'll turn our attention to AI when we come back.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Our federal political panelists today are Melanie Paradis, the president of Texture Communications, and Tom Parkin, longtime political commentator and NDP strategist. This week, Tom, the Minister of AI, Evan Solomon, will reveal the government's long-awaited AI policy. What are you expecting to hear from the government? What do you want to hear from the government about Canada's AI strategy?
Yeah, the top line, I would like to hear his analysis of what the impact on jobs is going to be from the kind of plan that he's rolling out. People are very worried about this. They're not wrong to be worried about this. I think that should be the priority that Mr. Solomon should be looking at. And he should tell us what he knows, what he expects. We have to as well look at the impacts on the energy consumption, the electricity consumption, the water consumption, and whether we're in fact positioned to do the kind of things that, AI centers, data centers, that are going to consume more of our resources and are going to cost us more in duration. So, these are just real things that this should talk about. And I think we've seen a lot of, I would say, ethical issues about AI.
Let's go to Melanie. Melanie Paradis, president of Texture Communications. They've been working on this for a year. It seems like the old Trudeau policies are on a shelf somewhere in the minister's office. What are you expecting to hear from the government about AI policy, Melanie?
Yeah, in fairness to them, this is one of those files where they've probably rewritten this policy 5 times, and every time they do, it's stale dated by the time they go to release it, because the technology is moving at that speed, and so is the public policy framework around it. So last week, the Pope released a paper of sorts. I'm a bad Catholic for forgetting what it's actually called. There is a word for it. But he released a paper specific
to encyclical, AI. I believe it's called. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what it is, an encyclical. Yes. And the Prime Minister spoke to him about it, because the Prime Minister, I believe he's also is a Catholic. And so I think that he'll probably take those words and the encyclical to heart. There is a need to strike the right balance, right, between regulating AI and while also ensuring that Canada doesn't lose our talent and investment advantages. This was an area where Canada once led, and we lost a lot of our talent and our IP, our intellectual property, to the US and to other countries around AI. But at the same time, we definitely need to address the concerns that many Canadians have about the impact AI will no doubt have on jobs, as Tom rightly mentioned, but also on public safety and safety for our kids in particular. So while there's a desire to make sure that we can harness this for economic purposes and also, all the benefits we're hearing about AI for like drug development and healthcare purposes, there's obviously a ton of good that we can do with this. We just need to make sure that we take that on balance with appropriate regulations to minimize the bad.
Well, yeah, especially now that there are calls and even policies being enacted. Tom Parkin is back with us. In other countries, say around accessing social media, age restrictions for social media. I think that gets to, some of the ethical points that you were trying to make, Tom, before we lost you there.
Yeah, well, we've seen a deluge of fake content, often pretty convincingly good fake content. So we're taking the dangers of social media and really supercharging it. It was over a year ago, I guess about a year ago, this time, that there was a G7 meeting in Kananaskis. And this was on the agenda. It was a major piece. Not too much talked about. There was some sort of agreement on it at the time between the G7 leaders. So what Mr. Solomon is going to announce is going to fit into whatever that agreement was. So I think it would be, there's clearly, and that was the upshot of that meeting, because they also talked about China and obtaining critical minerals for G7 countries. There was this push at that meeting to sort of, to do a bit of a fortress G7 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there's some sort of agreement about a framework here, and we are fitting into it somehow. And I think that is also a good question for Mr. Solomon to answer is, okay, where are we fitting now? What commitments have we made, and where are we fitting now into a global framework, or a G7 framework anyway, about how we are going to regulate AI? Because if things are off the table already by international agreement, we deserve to know that. If we have commitments, we should know that too.
All right. Tom Parkin, Melanie Paradis with us. We'll be right back. We'll talk about what is shaping up to be a long, hot summer of separation news. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Here with Melanie Paradis from Texture Communications and longtime political commentator and NDP strategist Tom Parkin, talking federal politics to begin the week. It will be a long, hot summer of separation news, especially in Alberta. There'll be a vote of sorts in October. What should Prime Minister Carney's key messages be on that issue? Melanie, what do you think?
Look, it's a tough one. I think the proof is in the pudding, so he needs to highlight more of the benefits of staying in Canada, highlight Alberta's rich history within Canada, the important role that it plays in our country. You need to show that you're willing to fight for them. And much of that fight, unfortunately, is going to be with British Columbia around pipelines. He should also be emphasizing that he himself is an Albertan. Like he was raised there. And then, some certain policy considerations, like why don't we move more of our federal offices to Alberta? Why don't we have more of a federal role in that province? Like if there are more jobs directly tied to the federal government, I think that could play a part. Look, Prince Edward Island will never leave because of all the jobs that are associated with the federal government.
Yeah. Good points all around. Melanie, Tom, what would you say, Tom?
It's similar, not quite the same, but it's very similar in the idea is that the Prime Minister's job is to sell Canada, to sell the value of Canada to everybody who's in Canada all the time, every Canadian. That is, keeping our spirits high in difficult times is kind of important, because if we lose our sense of optimism as a country, we're not going to try to achieve things. We're going to stop going and voting. We're going to stop thinking that our neighbor is a good person. All these terrible things that happen in other countries where they give a hope in their political leadership and in their in their country. So he's really got to just, I think, focus on that idea that Canada surely is an incredible country, incredible land, great people. There's nothing really that we can't do. We have our problems, but let's work on those. And everybody comes to it, I think, or 95% of us, with good faith that everybody in every province, every place in this country should be able to have a good life and should be able to use their resources, build their industries, and work cooperatively with the federal government to do that. I would very much caution anybody from doing what I've seen Daniel Smith do, which is repeat separatist talking points, grievances, and then say, but I'm a federalist. That doesn't work. That is, in fact, just repeating separatist talking points. So I don't want to see any of that from anybody who purports to be a federalist. I think it's we are committed to building, really the greatest country that has ever existed. I mean, look around the world.
Sure.
I would like to see this country be a little bit different, but I like it the way it is too. And I know that we can achieve better things. So sell that vision a bit, sell that hope.
Okay. All right. Good messages from both of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's going to be an interesting few months ahead, I think. Yeah, bye-bye. Tom Parkin, longtime political commentator and NDP strategist, and Melanie Paradis, the president of Texture Communications. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback is coming up, first one of the week, right after the latest breaking news. This is News Radio. Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today, right direction, wrong direction, a classic pollster question. We like to ask this from time to time on this show, and the last time we asked you this question, it was just before Christmas. And now here we are, June 1st of 2026. So it's been about 6 months since we last asked you this, and certainly a lot has happened since then. And we thought, let's ask this question and see how people are feeling about how the country is doing right now. So it is a very basic question for Talkback to begin the week. Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Is the country on the right track or the wrong track? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. You think about the state of things right now, because they are sort of unique in some ways. The economic news has not been good lately. The last time we saw an unemployment report, unemployment in the country moved higher. The rate moving to 6.7% nationally, and in some places it's a lot higher than that. In Kitchener, the unemployment rate is 9%. In Windsor, Ontario, it's more than 8%. In Edmonton, it's more than 7%. In Toronto, it's 7.9%, 7.7% in Montreal, 7% in Vancouver. It is a very difficult job market right now. The last time we saw a report on inflation, inflation was higher than it was in the month before and in the year before, with an inflation rate of 2.8%, but fuel prices were up almost 20% year over year. Food prices were up 3.5%. Shelter costs were higher. Food, gas, keeping a roof over your head, all more expensive. And then on Friday, the latest GDP report came out, and it showed a second consecutive quarterly decline, meaning Canada's economy is in a technical recession. StatsCan noted things like a weak housing market, a household savings rate on the decline, Canadians traveling less, buying fewer vehicles. So technically speaking, it's a recession. The opposition in the House calling it a full-blown recession. But then there's all the other stuff. No deal between Canada and the United States on trade. Canadian industry still being hit with tariffs. The cost of living remains a major source of anxiety for millions and millions of people. 1.5 million people unemployed. 500,000 collecting EI. But the strange part is that even with all of that news, the federal government remains very popular. There's a poll out today from Liaison Strategies, and it says the Liberal Party under Prime Minister Mark Carney solidly in the lead with a 9-point lead over the Conservative Party. The Liberals at 41%, Conservatives at 32%. The NDP seems to be getting a second or third look. Support for the NDP up to 16%, the highest it's been in quite some time. Other polls have the Liberals, led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, doing even better than that. Some of them had the Liberals in the mid-40s, 45, 46, 47% support for the Liberals. So despite this economic backdrop, the Liberals have a majority government today. And if there was an election today, the Liberals would probably win another majority government and do so rather easily. Despite employment being up, despite inflation up, and GDP numbers down. In fact, the economy in a recession. The federal Liberals are as popular now as the day they were elected more than a year ago, perhaps even more popular. So what does that say about the direction of the country? Does it say, yeah, things are not great now, but I trust the government, or I trust the Prime Minister to deal with things? Maybe that's the environment we're in. You tell us. You tell us. 1-833-668-2577. There are other issues as well. The annual poverty report card was just released today by Food Banks Canada. It points to a growing prevalence of precarious work, gig work, outdated income support programs like EI, and too many Canadians who just can't afford the essentials. Canadians are still frustrated with the immigration system, not just Canadians born here, but also immigrants who are trying to come here. And now an old issue is becoming new again. National unity, something this country hasn't really had to think about or worry about in more than 30 years, going back to the 1995 referendum in Quebec. And now it's a threat of separation on two fronts, in Quebec again, but also in Alberta, where there's going to be a referendum this fall on the issue that could lead to a much more serious binding referendum in the years ahead on national unity. So when you take it all in, everyone, when you look at the good and what the country has going for it, and when you look at the bad and what the country doesn't have going for it, what do you think? Is Canada on the right track? Is Canada on the wrong track? Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? When you think about the state of the economy or the state of our relationship with the United States, what's happening with household budgets and affordability, and all the other issues that the country is facing right now, how is this country doing? Is Canada moving in the right direction? Is Canada moving in the wrong direction? Really no wrong answers. All opinions welcome today. Right direction, wrong direction, classic pollster question. And 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We will make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
And we're asking that classic pollster question today. We only do this a few times a year. It's been almost 6 months since we last asked you this. Right direction or wrong direction? Do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? If you think Canada's moving in the right direction, why do you say that? If you think it's moving in the wrong direction, why do you say that? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Wade in Sylvan Lake, up first today. Hello, Wade.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, Wade. Yep, it's good to hear from you. Do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
I think absolutely the wrong direction.
And why do you say that, Wade?
Well, because our illustrious, person that's steering the Canadian ship there, he's destroyed our relationship with the United States over and over and over and over again. And then he just recently went down there, took his message to New York, and expected them to take his message to Washington. And, he said, well, Canada Strong will help make America great again.
Yes.
So what's with all the flip-flopping? And
but is that a bad message?
Absolutely.
Why is that a bad message if Canada can help make America great again by selling it, say, energy from Alberta, for example?
It's a bad message because it shows how much of a coward that he is.
Okay.
He goes to New York and expects the New York business community, to take his message to Washington. He's a coward. He won't even go and talk and look Trump in the eye. That is a coward.
Well, he'd have to secure a meeting with Donald Trump first, I suppose.
Well, he should. But the other thing, too, is, I'm in Alberta and stuff, and
Sure.
I don't know why Carney can't get up tomorrow morning or after his nap this afternoon and say, hey, Alberta, yeah, you got your pipeline, go for it. No, instead, he's going to put us off till what? I think September of 2027. And all I can think that he's doing is that's going to give China enough time to buy up more of Alberta. And once that happens, I believe he's going to go, like, it's going to be to hell with the environment, to hell with the Aboriginal things, to hell with BC. Here, China, you've got full control. Give her.
Okay. I don't see that particularly playing through. Premier Smith, your premier's very confident. Your premier, sorry, Wade, you had your say. I'm going to move along. The premier was very happy to sign that deal with Mark Carney in the National Post today, saying she trusts Mark Carney, and they're both kind of confident that shovels can be in the ground, as you say, next September of 2027. I know not fast enough for some, but I appreciate your call. Ken is in Cochrane, and he's up next on Talkback today. Hello, Ken.
Morning, Rob. Rob, I think we're going in the wrong direction.
And why is that?
I say that for a number of reasons. All you have to do is listen to Pierre Poilievre this morning with the number. And I appreciate a lot of people think that he's negative. Well, that's his job. He's the opposition, right? So, the number of things that he's identified, not just, the fact that we're in a technical recession. He's illustrating that by bringing out more facts. But I guess the reason that I called, saying that I'm thinking that we're going down the wrong road is everybody is continually saying, well, you got a pipeline, you've got a pipeline, you've got a pipeline. Be happy. A, we don't have a pipeline. B, it's not just about a pipeline. That's what a lot of people are kind of missing. And they're saying, well, it's better than the last 10 years. Well, again, it's not about the last 10 years. This is about the national energy program. This is about Charlottetown. This is about Meech Lake. This is about not having electoral reform. This is about not having a Senate that we have any faith in. There are a number of different things. I am a federalist, but I am pissed off. And I am one of these people that will, I voted for having a referendum and bringing that forward to people because I wanted people to have a voice, right? To be able to say, yes, we want to be in Canada. No, we don't want to be in Canada. They have the right to be able to do that. And yes, I get the fact that First Nations are a sovereign or quasi-sovereign body within Canada, and they should have a say. But in order to have a say, you've got to have a question. If you're going to basically, ignore that ability and not even have a question to be able to go out and begin discussions with them. To me, I just think they've ignored Alberta again, and if they continue to do that, as we are going down the wrong road, then we got a problem.
Okay. Fair enough. Ken, thank you. So our first two callers from Alberta today. Love to hear from other parts of the country as well. Halifax, Southern Ontario, whatever the case might be. Do you think Canada's moving in the right direction? Wrong direction? Are we on the right track in this country or on the wrong track? 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available there for you. Love to hear from you today. First Talkback of the week. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? That's what we're asking today. We ask it about every 6 months on Talkback. Just like to find out what way you're leaning. 1-833-668-2577 to Halifax. We go. Tim is on the line. Hello, Tim.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Tim. Yeah, a beautiful day here. What would you say?
I would say we're 100% going in the wrong direction, not only economically, but crime-wise. It was just recently come out that there was that threat to the police out in BC of, was it up towards to 1,000 gunmen threatening because they were cracking down on the Bangladesh Tigers?
The Bishnoi gang. Bishnoi gang.
That was it.
The Bishnoi gang
and then
from India.
On top of that, how many IRGC agents do we have roughly in Canada? The media said it roughly around 1,000. Like, if we got all these terrorist organizations operating in Canada openly, and all I get from the Canadian government is propaganda. Like, I can't even go watch a YouTube video with them trying to tell me how they're trying to help and make things better when they've continued downward spiral into the toilet.
Okay. If I could just ask you, because this is one of the curious things about this question right now, is you're citing what you're citing. I'm citing kind of the economic malaise that's happening in the country. Unemployment is up. Inflation is up. The economy's not growing. It's technically in a recession. And yet, despite that, and what you mentioned, the problems with the Bishnoi gang, extortion, you have some communities in Canada, they're living in fear because of that extortion situation in Brampton and in some communities in British Columbia. Despite that, the government is very popular. The Carney Liberals are very popular. How do you explain that? I mean, if the country's going down, circling the drain, as you would say, why is the government so popular? Because that's usually not the case when the country's circling the drain. People usually blame the government.
Statistically speaking, it's not a wrong statement. We got two provinces threatening to leave. Like, our GDP is sinking, and then you look at all the other problems we have going on. I think it comes down. I forget who it says. If you bang your fist loud enough and say it loud enough, people will believe you. I think it's a combination between propaganda and, bold-faced lies, and people just generally want to believe in the government. And I think that on top of that, the soft-hearted Canadians that are doing this, they look at these good people that are immigrants that are coming over, whether they're from India, Ukraine, England, or Asia, or wherever, and they're looking at the good ones and then they're being just blindsided by that and trying to ignore the bad. Well, the mother of my son, he come to me the other day and he was like, "There's too many people in Canada," because there was a little boy that was going around his school, he said, from Jamaica, that was saying all Canadians have a dark side. But then she's focusing on this neighbor behind her that's from a war-torn country. And I get it. We need to help people, but we can't hurt ourselves in the process.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Wrong direction. That's 3 in a row. Does anybody out there have a bright side? Is Canada moving in the wrong direction or the right direction? Right direction, wrong direction. On the right track, the wrong track. Have your say. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is Talkback on News Radio. Yeah, right direction, wrong direction. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? First time caller in Calgary is Randy. Hello, Randy.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Randy.
Hello.
Yeah. We're not getting your rain, Randy, so we're okay. Yep. What would you say?
And yeah, the floodplains are out. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think we're moving in the wrong direction, but there's a lot of reasons why. One of the biggest reasons I see is the government continues to put money into all the different systems, whether it's the cost of living, the housing affordability, healthcare, indigenous, you name it. But that money goes nowhere but into the coffers of basically consultants to the chiefs of the indigenous. I live right close to many reserves, and the people are living in poverty, but the chiefs are living pretty high on the hog. And that's got to stop, because all we do is put Band-Aids on a bleeding artery, and it's never going to change. They just keep on announcing 500 million here, another 150 million here. But when does that money actually get trailed down to the common person? Housing affordability. They keep on saying, oh, we're going to, speed up, building, things like that. Well, it's all fine and dandy, but if you've got $1 million houses, who's going to afford it?
Yeah, true enough. And the housing market has its own issues right now, high interest rates. It's just a tough housing market right now, especially, for builders and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, and even if you look at the, productivity, economic growth, things like that, in Alberta here, we supply a lot of money to the rest of Canada, but it seems like the provinces continue to buck the system. The best thing that ever happened to Canada was getting Guilbeault out of government, period. I mean, him and Trudeau tainted everything in Canada. But that creates labor shortages, or not labor shortage, but basically, I guess if you want to call it, shovels in the ground, because everything is backlogged through government. Yeah, Carney comes out here and it's all nice and dandy. We're going to, give an MOA and all that's the memorandum of agreement. That's not worth the paper it's written on, because you can throw money out the window and that's all the government does. One of the highest tax countries, I would say, first world countries, if you want to call it that, we're right in the middle of the pack, but still way, way more taxed than anybody else. Where's this money going to come from to pay the debt? Like, my kids will be paying
I'll
the
be long
debt
dead and buried by then. I'll be long dead and buried by then. Okay, Randy, I got you. Thank you. Yep, there you go. Another unhappy Albertan. Let's see if things are looking any brighter in Kitchener. Lisa's in Kitchener. Hello, Lisa.
Hello. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
Lisa. I hear you just fine. Right track, wrong track, right direction, wrong direction. What would you say?
I think Carney's the best thing that ever happened. I think he's a leader with integrity. He gives the people hope, and that's exactly what we need. We don't need someone like Trump. Trump just brings us all down. So anyhow, I think he's a smart guy. With putting all the money in the military, he's giving jobs to people. That's fantastic.
Okay, so increased military spending, giving raises to people who are in the Canadian Armed Forces, certainly
And
ramping
maybe
up
get more
military spending. Yep, more jobs. Yes. So you think the country is on the right, moving in the right direction?
Yes.
You think
And he's going to other countries, and he's building up business for people here, selling our stuff for us, getting connections. That's the best thing he could do.
Well, he has secured some tariff relief, particularly with his deal with China. Now, there are concerns in the auto sector about that, because, that means those Chinese-made EVs are going to be for sale here. People in, for example, in Cambridge near you, they're not happy that those Chinese-made electric cars are going to be for sale here.
Yes. But overall, I think he's got the country's best interest in mind, and he's doing a good job.
You think he's doing a good job and he's got the country moving in the right direction. There you go. Okay. That seems to be the minority opinion so far. Let's go back to Alberta. Rita is in Alberta. Hello, Rita.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, Rita. What would you say? Right direction or wrong direction?
I'd say we're going in the wrong direction, and I know I'm a lot different thinker than many people. I think too many of us have our own self-interests, and we're spoiled and entitled. And I think neither the Conservatives or the Liberals are doing anything but business as usual.
Okay.
And I think we're heading in the wrong direction. We're focused on the GDP, and we're destroying our planet. All the new projects are further destroying the earth. The population increases are going in the wrong direction. All the political division, increased military spending is also earth destroying. Selling arms to Israel, Saudi Arabia is wrong. Allowing water to be poisoned, like in Alberta, I stand up for the water, not coal. I think we need a national evaluation moving towards sustainability of Canadian society, reduce consumption, and become a global leader bending towards sustainability of the planet.
Right. So you're worried about things like climate change and the environment, environmental issues, and you don't think we're moving in the right direction on that front?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Okay. Very, very interesting. So wrong direction, but for a different reason than some of other callers today. And that's good to hear from you and get that perspective today. Thank you, Rita, on Talkback today. What do you think about the direction this country is going in? Is it on the right track or the wrong track? This is Talkback, and it's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? That's our question today on Talkback. Barry is in Halifax. Hello, Barry.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Barry.
What
would you say?
The Minister of Environment resigned, and the reason, from what I understand, is because Prime Minister doesn't seem to be too conscious about the environment. And I've mentioned this before, we're getting into the season now where we're going to have a lot of forest fires in the country. And since the minister or the Prime Minister is spending all this money, it's too bad he wouldn't increase the production of the water bombers that are built in Calgary that other countries have ordered. Premier Manitoba ordered 3, but he's got to wait until 2032 to get them. It's too bad that Carney wouldn't give pay a little more attention to what's going on around here as far as the environment is concerned.
Okay. So you're the second caller who has said, I'm concerned about the backsliding on environmental policy, but just more generally speaking, more big picture speaking, I mean, do you think Canada is on the right track or the wrong track? What do you think?
Well, it's as I just said, the problem are all these fires, and it'll be another 80 or 100 years before those trees are can reproduce themselves. So I don't know if Carney is not foresighted enough to understand this issue, but I think it was Gilbert, or I forget his last name, that just resigned a few days ago.
Mr. Guilbeault.
Yeah.
Mr. Guilbeault, Stephen Guilbeault. Yeah.
And the other thing is all the spending. In fact, from what I heard or read, Carney kind of ran out of ideas as to how to spend more money, and so he's called in a bunch of CEOs to come up with more ideas. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily what's going on. He has invited big-time investors, pension plans, big private investors, institutional investors to Canada, to invest in Canada, to try and pitch them on investing in Canada.
Well, from what I read, it was the CEOs from the country that he's invited, and the article read that he wanted more ideas as to how to actually spend more money, more projects. But I could be wrong, but that's what I get out of it.
Okay. So you would say the country then, for the most part, is moving in the wrong direction? Because, I bring this up. The government is very popular right now.
Carney's a popular guy. I mean, he's quite impressive when he speaks, and I think a lot of that support that he's getting is just because of his personality, to tell you the truth, not because of the policies.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. It's politics as opposed to policies. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. All of our lines are available right now. The wait won't be too long. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I mean, it's interesting to note the economic situation and the political situation. It's just not usually like this. You have a party that's been in power for more than 10 years. Yes, it's changed leaders, but it's still the Liberal Party, and it's riding high in the polls. Largely, I think, to the caller's point, because of the reputation of the Prime Minister and the trust that many Canadians have in Prime Minister Mark Carney. The polls are pretty clear on this. He's more trusted than the alternatives. But then you look at the economic numbers, and these are economic numbers that aren't usually good for the popularity of any government. Governments don't usually thrive in the polls when more people are becoming unemployed, when inflation is rising instead of falling or holding steady, and when there's very little economic growth to speak of. And certainly the opposition in the House of Commons will do everything it can to link the Liberals and link Prime Minister Carney to the performance of the Canadian economy, especially in light of Friday's GDP report that showed that the economy is in a recession, a technical recession. But if you're out of work, it's a recession, okay? And you have the Conservatives trying to force a debate in the House of Commons about that, and that's a debate that the government would rather not have. It's not up to the government when it comes to what happens in the House. It's up to the Speaker of the House whether they'll have that debate. And I guess you could say stay tuned on that one. But 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Think of what is going well in the country right now. What's not going so well? Do you think the country's on the right track or the wrong track? 1-833-668-2577 to have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Classic pollster question today to start the week on Talkback. First-time caller Mike is on the line from Calgary. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Rob. How are you? From cold, wet,
very good,
windy
Mike.
Calgary.
Well, you keep it there, sir. Just don't send it this way. I don't want it, okay?
Okay, very good. Listen, we got a lot of good and negative things going on in the country. So
fair enough.
I'll start with a couple of positive things, okay?
Okay.
The increase in the military, because we have an increase, or we're going to have an increase in personnel. They get higher pay. And Canadian manufacturing will eventually get big benefits from the increase in military spending. That's a good one.
All right.
Recognition of the need to increase our training in the skilled trades. If we're going to get our economy going with some of these big projects and get Canadians at work, we need to have increased training of our skilled trades.
Sure thing. Sure
Next
thing.
one.
The government is rolling out a big program, a $10 billion program related to that, to
That's
try
right.
and train
So that's a positive
100,000
thing.
tradespeople. So, yes.
Yeah.
So that's a positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recognition that we need to develop our resources. That's oil and gas, mining, agriculture, the lumber industry. So, yeah, we're going in the right direction there too.
All right.
The final one that's on the positive side is I think the government is taking the right approach in our trade negotiations with the Americans. I know there's not too many public statements, but I think that this is the right approach to be taking.
All right. I would just point out, still no breakthrough on that. The clock is sort of ticking on Kuzma right now, and some tariffs are higher now than when Prime Minister Carney took over from Justin Trudeau. So Canadians would like to see some progress on that. Okay, that's a pretty good list of the bright side. Do you have some comments on the downside?
So on the negative side of things, there's a couple of things. Well, I got 5 listed here that the government has to be working towards, okay? And then
let's try and get through them quickly because we only have a minute and a half. So let's go.
Okay, so Canadian equalization methodology. We need to include hydroelectric power generation and the value of it as it relates to Quebec in the equalization program. Number 2, I think we need a royal commission to independently study CO2 and its impact on our environment. I think there's too much right and wrong myths out there right now, and the only way to do it is to have someone independently within Canada study this.
Okay.
We need to move towards a federal balanced budget. Right now, we're spending way too much money. That's a negative in our checklist. We need to get rid of carbon taxes altogether. And then the final one, the Canadian government needs to do a better job of communicating in educational terms the message of the environment and dispel myths as it relates to, getting Canadians to understand the complexity of the environment. That most Canadians talk about things and they have very, very good motivation behind their standings and what they're saying, but they really have so many facts that are wrong. And therefore, I think it's up to the government to go in there and start clarifying things for the general public.
Okay. All right. We've got to wrap it up there. It's interesting to see the way, say, concern about climate change. I mean, a few years ago, it was easily a top 5, if not a top 3 issue in the country. Climate change. Are you concerned about climate change? You worried about climate change? Do you think the fight against climate change is important now? Because there are so many other issues, most of them economic, related to affordability, the cost of living. Climate change is like way down the list now for Canadians' concerns. Thank you. That's it for hour number 1. Very busy in hour number 1. Let's keep it going in the second hour of Talkback after the news. Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback on a Monday. Great to be with you. 1-833-668-2577 and join the discussion as we ask a classic pollster question today. We only ask this a couple of times a year. It's been almost 6 months since we last asked you this. Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Are we on the right track or the wrong track? If you think we're moving in the right direction, why do you say that? If you think we're moving in the wrong direction, why do you say that? Again, the number to call, and we'd love to hear from first-time callers. We heard from a lot of first-time callers in the first hour. Love to hear from new voices in the second hour as well at 1-833-668-2577 as we go back to our phone lines and welcome a first-time caller from Calgary, Richard. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Richard.
I say we're going in the wrong direction, as in the minority is starting to become so loud on every issue that, if we separate it, what's our provincial government going to do any different? She's doing and pulling up and changing our fluoride and changing whether we should vote. She does what she wants anyway. Okay?
You mean your
What is the
Premier
cost?
Smith, you mean?
Yeah. What's the cost
Right.
of all this separation garbage for what, 30% of the population here?
Well, I imagine it's
70%
millions of
is
dollars,
already-
sir.
Exactly. And 70% has already said no once. And now we're dragging it out and costing us thousands of dollars not. Take that money, invest it in our oil and gas to process it and refine it here. We don't need to ship raw oil out. Process it and refine it here, sell the finished product out, and who's going to have a complaint with that crossing the border? You don't need to fight about a pipeline and 5 years of waiting for it. Start building a refinery now. They already know how to do that.
Well, I mean, you say it like you can just snap your fingers and build an oil refinery. You think it's hard to build a pipeline?
I'm
Who wants
saying,
to,
You
right?
could build an oil
try and
refinery
get a permit for an
at the
oil
same
refinery. You
time.
think that's going to be any easier? That's not going to be any easier to get a permit for an oil refinery.
That's probably easier to get one if we did it in Alberta than trying to tell BC and all the natives that, we're going to run a pipeline here and end up with another Keystone that gets halfway there and somebody else changes their mind.
Right. Okay. So it sounds to me like you think a lot of the problems are made in Alberta problems to me, not made in Canada problems.
Well, they definitely are, but it's Canadian ones too. Like why is Quebec taking oil from Saudi Arabia, but they won't let Alberta oil go to the East Coast?
Yeah,
that's
fair
a
enough.
Canadian
Good question.
problem.
That's a Canadian problem. I would agree with you there. Yes.
Okay. People don't understand. If there's 40 million people in Ontario and 10 in Alberta, well, that means 40%, how many more votes do they get down there? So, of course, things go their way.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. Wrong direction caller there. Again, from Alberta, but it pins a lot of the blame on the provincial government in Alberta. And I believe it's 14 million or so people living in Ontario. Thank you, though, for your call. 1-833-668-2577. It's hour number 2 of Talkback. Right direction, wrong direction. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? To Waterloo now. Dennis is in Waterloo. Hello, Dennis.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine, Dennis. Good to hear from you today. What would you say?
Wrong direction.
Okay,
I think
and
a better
why?
question is, I think a better question is, name even one thing that's getting better for average Canadians since 2015. You can't.
Okay.
I keep asking that question, and I keep getting blank stares back.
Oh, really?
We quite frankly would have been better off if they had taken an 11-year fishing trip and done nothing.
Okay.
We haven't had a legitimate majority government since 2019. And yet we have all these edicts coming out. What happened to the people that we elected? Why aren't they debating these policies? And what's making it maddening is that they're just spending money. It's like the gravy train. And I think the real problem, you keep coming back to how popular they are. I think what's happened in this country is that we've reached a tipping point where we have the makers are being outnumbered by the takers. And even when you look at, the sweeps of the Conservatives in Alberta, where did they not sweep? Edmonton. What's that? Civil service. Ditto for Ford in Ontario. He didn't take Ottawa. He swept the province except for Ottawa and Toronto, parts of Toronto. And I think what we have is too many people
in the cities, like the urban parts of the cities. You mean, right?
I think it's the people that, I know lots of civil servants, and they're all retiring at 55, and they don't want to change anything, so they're on board. And now you have the huge public service that he's added, and we've got the takers now leaving, and I think that's what's disturbing. Now, on the positive side, I think, to me, the prescription is pretty clear. We need a total free and fair trade deal with the U.S., and we've got to eliminate these anchors on our economy so we can compete. And I think that's a total win-win solution. I think private investment would flood in here. And this idea that, Trump doesn't want total free and fair trade. Bull. He wants a deal, get rid of these anchors, get rid of this protectionism and crony capitalism. I think we can compete. I think our 10 provinces can compete with the 50 U.S. states. That's my sort of take on it. So I'm not just all negative. But the last thing I would say is that, we need a new national policy. We get these edicts now, as I said, and so you got half the people are blocking it. We need to get a true leader that brings everybody together and say, okay, what's the plan for this country of ours? And I'll use the example of John A. Macdonald. When there was a national policy, it was we need to protect our infinite industries with tariffs. We need immigration for this country, and we need to build infrastructure, canals, and railroad. And that was the plan. And everyone was on board. And anybody who wasn't is in the way. And that's what we need from our leader, and especially when they only have this minority. Like, bring the parties together.
Okay, well, they have a majority now. They have a majority now, of course.
Well, that's a majority. That's the part of my
Okay,
language.
all right. Okay, you can't say that. All right. I understand why you feel that way, but you don't have to end it there yet. Just, there's a lot of ways you could describe it, just not that way. On the radio, anyway. 1-8, you never know what's going to come out of their mouths. 1-833-668-2577. Right direction, wrong direction. Answer our classic pollster question on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is this country on the right track or the wrong track? What would you say, and why would you say that? Reza, up next in Calgary. Hello, Reza.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Reza. How are you? How is the country doing, in your opinion? Is it on the right track or the wrong track?
Oh, I think there are a couple of things here, if you allow me. So definitely we've taken a U-turn. The Liberal Party is not the same party that was operating under Justin Trudeau. But changing direction doesn't mean you are moving towards that direction. So far, we've kind of made a U-turn, but it's too early to say if we are moving towards the right direction. Carney has moved to center from the far left. He has from conservative playbooks taken some lessons, I think, reducing public service, canceling pharmacare or pausing it, not funding all the social programs, making Canada stronger. So these are very conservative stances that he has taken. Definitely he has changed the direction, but it is too early to judge the Prime Minister say he's moving or not. It's just too early. It's just 1 year he's been in power. So I'm optimistic. If Daniel Smith is willing to work with him, that means we are moving in the right direction, because Daniel Smith is pragmatic, and Carney has taken that idealism out of Liberal Party, and I think Party is supporting him, and we should give him a chance. That's all I have to say.
All right. You've said it very well. Give him some time is the takeaway there from Reza in Calgary. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available. I think the government, to Reza's point, the Liberals would try and pitch that to Canadians. Look, we're shiny and all brand new, and we're not Justin Trudeau's government anymore. The thing is, there are a lot of progressives who think that as well. That may partly explain a jump in support for the NDP, actually. There were a lot of NDP voters who parked their votes with the Liberals in the last election because they didn't want a conservative government. They didn't want Prime Minister Poilievre. But now they have voters' regret. They're not happy with some of the decisions that Mark Carney is making, because some of them are decisions that look like they could come from a conservative, whether it's on climate change or whether it's on pipelines or the expansion of pharmacare, which seems to be stuck and going nowhere. The government did reduce the budget for foreign aid, and it's making big investments in the military. Some people think the tens of billions of dollars going into military spending is misdirected, and that those are funds that could be better spent elsewhere on progressive causes. So there are lots of things that progressives don't like about the current Liberal government. I think the Liberals would say, maybe we'll hear from the Prime Minister on this sometime. He was supposed to be at an event in Ottawa today. He wasn't there. He's going to Toronto later today. But I do think his Liberal messengers are going to say, look, a lot of this economic news, the economy being in a recession, for example, is not a surprise. And we have a plan to deal with it. And we have a great leader to deal with it. That's what they'll say. You've seen part of our plan, like build Canada strong, build Canada strong. Even if it helps make America great again, let's build Canada strong. I mean, that is the Prime Minister's go-to line. And he talks all the time about wanting to make Canada an energy superpower. But what we're hearing today, especially from our callers in Alberta, is some doubt. They're just not sure if they believe him when he talks about an energy superpower, especially on his commitment to another pipeline to British Columbia. Look, we'll stop here. We'll take some more calls. Question period is just starting in the House of Commons as well, and we expect the economy to be top of mind for the opposition. Been pounding away since Friday on the Liberal/Mark Carney economic record. And more of your calls as well on the direction of this country. Is it moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? What would you say today? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Right track, wrong track. What would you say today? First time caller in Calgary, Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, Mike. How are you today?
I'm good.
That's good.
I get a little irritated, but my own opinion is we're going downhill. We've been going downhill for the last 10 to 15 years, partly because of politicians. Actually, not partly, but because of politicians. They only know how to spend money. They spend money in bad times and they spend money in good times. It seems to me in good times you should be saving money, and in bad times spend money to stimulate the economy.
Sure.
I think inflation is misrepresentative. For example, my property taxes have gone up 30% in the last 3 years. So that's an average of 10% a year just for property taxes. So don't tell me inflation is 1.5% or 2.5%. It isn't. And I don't know if you guys remember when the pilots went on strike a few years ago, and they were asking for a 50% increase. I think they got around 35%. And now every civil servant in the country whose contract comes due are using that as a basis for their next increase. Housing is a joke.
Well, good luck to them. Good luck to them, because I'm trying to think what the offer. I mean, right now, the government is in collective bargaining negotiations with its major public service unions in Ottawa, and I think the Carney government is offering something like 6% over 4 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Their opening.
Well, you got to keep their wages down, because you wouldn't want them to get the same raise that you got, because then you wouldn't be saving money. As a person, you probably want, like I would want city taxes to be low and my wage increase to be high, because, I'm trying to get ahead.
Right.
So,
but to your point, I mean, the latest reading on inflation was 2.8%. And, you, like a lot of people, are saying, yeah, I don't think so. I think the inflation rate's higher than 2.8%. My real life inflation rate is higher than 2.8%. That's your point, right?
Yeah, and the inflation rate is probably based on a handful of items, not everything, like not mortgages or rents. I'm pretty sure rents aren't included in that inflation thing. They talk about fuel prices and maybe gas prices, but I'd have to look it up to see how they calculate inflation. But I'm pretty sure they leave out a lot of things that are meaningful to you and me.
Right. Well, they have a basket of items that all fall under shelter. That would be that'd be homeowners replacement costs, which would be like major repairs. I need a new roof. I need a new front step or what have you. Certainly insurance, home insurance goes into that as well. Mortgage carrying costs, in other words, what mortgage rates are, that goes into that. There are a lot of things that go into the shelter component of the inflation report.
Okay.
Rents,
anyway,
I'm not so sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Housing is a joke. CMHC says we need 3 million more houses than we have. So we've been building an average of about 200,000 a year on the past 50 years. Carney wants to add another 250,000 houses a year. Don't know how that's going to happen.
Not on pace to do that now.
And Liberals are solely responsible for the current rise in house prices and rent by their immigration policy. I mean, if you just take 1 million immigrants and you say the average is 4 per family, right there you need 250,000 units to either sell or rent. So, no wonder house prices went up.
It has certainly made for both a tight housing market and a tight rental market. You're right there. Okay, so you've outlined it and given us your thoughts on why you think the country's on the wrong direction. I thank you. Moving in the wrong direction. I thank you for your call. 1-833-668-2577. It's been very busy on Talkback. Why don't you join the discussion today? Are we on the right track in this country? The wrong track? Have your say. And explain your position. Explain your opinion. Love to hear it.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Classic pollster question today. Right direction, wrong direction. Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Call us and let us know. And tell us why you feel that way. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of calls from Alberta and on the situation with Alberta, national unity, which is not just an Alberta thing, of course. It's going to be a Quebec thing soon enough. It's hard to know if it's having any impact on the separatist view in Alberta. I think Mark Carney and his people would say he's trying to make the case that his government wants to hit the reset button with Alberta. Okay, he's been there twice now to sign deals with the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith. There's a report in the National Post today about the trust that Premier Smith has in Mark Carney. And I mean, look, the most hated federal politician, whose name is not Trudeau, is gone from the government and is not part of the government anymore, and that's Stephen Guilbeault. And there have been other decisions that have been made that have angered people like Stephen Guilbeault. There's no carbon tax, consumer carbon tax, at least anymore. The clean electricity regulations are, back to the drawing board, I guess. The province of Alberta is getting better conditions under the industrial carbon tax, although it will go up. It won't go up by as much as the Trudeau government wanted it to go up, and it'll get more time for it to hit that level. And I mean, both the Premier of Alberta and the Prime Minister have been talking about shovels in the ground for a pipeline to BC in a little more than a year from now. So on the situation between Alberta and Ottawa, I think the Liberals are trying to say, meet the new boss. He's really not the same as the old boss. But does that mean the country is moving in the right direction? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Halifax again. Eric is in Halifax. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Rob. I think we're in hot water. I think he's looking way down the road. Most of us will be in our graves by the time that this comes about. I'll believe it when I see it, but we're in hot water, and that's just the bottom line. Whatever he's doing, he's doing it for. Hopefully, he's living the pipe dream, and he's just ruining the country. That's all there is to it. He's like his predecessor. They're in the same mold.
It sounds like you're kind of turning on Mark Carney. I thought you were a fan of his.
No, I'm not a fan of his. I mean, I always said that he's living a pipe dream. He's trying to make something out of nothing. You know, he's doing it for the future. Like I say, the future looks pretty bright for the young people. We'll be all in our graves by the time that comes around. But at the present, he's not doing all that great. Like that one guy said, he's not trying to persuade Trump down there one way or the other to drop all the tariffs. So how can anybody say that he's doing good? I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. Right. The man is bewildered. He's just, living in a dream.
Okay. All right, Eric. Thank you. Yeah, good to hear from you today. Thanks for waiting. Aaron. Am I saying that right? Aaron in Calgary?
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Aaron.
How are you? Good afternoon. I'm very good. What would you say? Right direction or wrong direction?
I will say what is going on right is made the right statement about bold Canada, strong Canada. What is not going right is, I believe, based on what has happened with the U.S. and all the tariffs and other issues we had with China and India, Canada needs to declare a financial emergency, not national emergency, financial emergency, and get all these projects, major projects we've been talking for 6 or 8 projects, get them in the ground now, not year down the road, not 3 months down the road. They should have been in the ground now. Canada has a lot of power, a lot of resources. See, most Canadians don't understand that we have oil power, we have water power, we have many other resources, and we could be number 1 GDP in the whole world. But we need to get strong shovels in the ground, and we need to bring foreign workers on a temporary basis only to get that project done and back to their home, and the projects are built, which is done by many countries to build a project. So if we want to be financially strong and the number 1, we need to get that done now, not next year.
Right. That these major projects, I mean, what have we seen so far? I mean, we've really just seen a list, right? 2 lists. Okay, here's the first list and here's the second list, but there's been no approval of any of these projects for this list. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Sorry. And everybody else. And I've been on a major projects. Major projects don't get built by talking. They get built by being on the drawing. And plus, we will need foreign workers to build it. Many countries have built their infrastructure by bringing foreign workers on temporary basis. Yes. Then this year, if they're not starting, we're going to be in some other recession. Canada will go in recession.
Okay. All right. Well, technically, we're in a recession right now. I thank you for your call. Not moving fast enough, especially when it comes to these big infrastructure projects that are, on the desk of the people at the major projects office. The 500 of them or so that are now working there, they have jobs in the major projects office in Calgary. Right direction, wrong direction. What direction is Canada going? That's the Talkback question today. Have your say at 1-833-668-2577 here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right direction, wrong direction, our Talkback question of the day. Linda in Southern Alberta. What would you say, Linda? Hi, Linda.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. Yeah,
You're welcome,
I would just say in regards to the polling, you had the polling and also questions about the economy and stuff. And one was positive and one was negative. And I don't think the two can be true at the same time. So I'm not going with the polling at all. I've gone through sessions on polls and how you make them work for you and stuff. So I'm going with the other. And yes, we are definitely in the wrong direction. And I think if the politicians would get out of the way and let, the economy grow the way it should, instead of worrying about their base or whatever, whoever they're going for in order to do things. Because sometimes I think the Liberals are more worried about keeping their votes and stuff instead of pushing the economy forward like they should.
Okay. So you think we're moving in the wrong direction? The country's moving in the wrong direction?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
You do?
And
Yes.
you know, the way Connie spends, I mean, FIFA is already showing themselves that they're corrupt in the U.S. They're having issues with their tickets and everything. And yet he's putting just about $1 billion or plus there and then grounding our snowbirds. Our snowbirds are, you know, iconic flying group.
Yeah. I know. They need new jets, though.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and you know what it's like to buy fighter jets in this country.
But he's grounding them in what, 2026 until they can build new ones or something, get new ones?
Yes. They need new aircraft. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then they were saying there's a deal
they've been flying those planes for 60 years.
Yeah, and there's an organization now, the vets, that are trying to push to make sure that they stay in the air, because they're saying they're an icon for the military. They're a great training tool for the military, and they're also a very good symbol for Canada.
Yes.
So I think, he's spending in the wrong direction, and he's taking us in the wrong direction.
Fair enough. That's why we're asking the question, Linda. Thank you for your call. First-time caller, Jerry in Calgary. Hello, Jerry.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, very good, Jerry. Yeah. What would you say, Jerry? Right direction or wrong direction?
We're going in the toilet.
In the
Literally
toilet?
In the toilet. I mean, you got no real visible or viable budget. They're spending like a drunk college frat boy with their parents' credit card with no accountability, and it's beyond ridiculous. They have memorandums of understanding that you might as well use them for toilet paper because they're useless until you get them going. They're bringing in foreign workers when they should be hiring our youth to get their job experience. Instead, they got people coming in from overseas, taking jobs from kids that need them.
Well, they're reining in the immigration numbers. They're even taking heck for what the immigration changes that they're making, right? And the population recently has been going down and not up. There's been no population growth in Canada.
Well, that's because nobody can afford to have kids. I mean, you're
well,
getting
no, it's not. That's part of why people who are here are not having children is the cost. But make no mistake, when the immigration numbers go down the way they have, that is what has stalled the population growth in Canada. It's an immigration story.
Well, I mean, if they cut the tax by half and get rid of the useless carbon tax, because what does the carbon tax go to? They don't give you a straight answer as to what that tax is for. The United States doesn't have a carbon tax. Why do we?
Understood. Good question. I'm no fan of carbon taxes. Never have been. Okay, I think we lost. Did we lose Jerry? There?
Are you there?
Oh, there's Jerry. Yeah, I hear you now, Jerry. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
your
the
thoughts.
carbon tax is nothing but a cash grab. That's it.
All right. Well, the carbon tax, especially the industrial carbon tax, they say it's there to incent the big polluters to not pollute as much. That's what they say. How effective it is, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Al Gore pulled the same stunt down in the States with carbon credits. You know, you pay a certain amount, and then you get to shuffle your pollution around.
Okay. All right. So I got you, Jerry, loud and clear. Not just are we going in the wrong direction, but really way off track, according to Jerry. Okay. We'll be right back with a few more calls at 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. The Liberals are saying they've been repeating it today. Look, we're not surprised that times are tough right now. With the economy, look at what Trump has been doing to us. We don't control the fact that there's a war in the Middle East and what that has done to the energy prices and gas prices and food prices, but we have a plan for Canada. We're going to help Canadians get through this difficult time. And they're hoping you believe that. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
When it comes to this question, is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Most of the major polling firms, they track this stuff on a regular basis. For example, a recent poll, Abacus data, asked Canadians if they thought the country's on the right track or the wrong track. 47% of Canadians said the country's on the right track. That was a poll came out about a week ago. And it was the most popular choice. 47% saying right track. 39% said the country's on the wrong track. Highest percentage of Canadians who thought the country was on the right track going all the way back to 2017. I mean, 9 years now. Ipsos last asked this question in February. Different result. 55% of Canadians said the country's on the wrong track. 45% said the country's on the right track. Angus Reid Institute about a month ago. 42% said the country's on the wrong track. 34% said the country's on the right track. But there was a very deep partisan divide. If you're a liberal, you think the country's moving in the right direction. 64% of liberals think the country's moving in the right direction. If you're a conservative, you think the country's on the wrong track. 75% of conservatives said the country's on the wrong track. What do you think? Marianne in Calgary. Hello, Marianne.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi, Marianne. Yeah, I hear you just fine. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Go
Then
ahead.
thank you. Thank you for taking my call. Yes, I think that we're on the wrong track. Personally,
okay.
I believe that the carbon tax and getting to net zero is quite the feat that I believe is not necessary. I don't think that getting to net zero is going to do anything except for destroy an awful lot of what we actually do need, and that is carbon for a lot of things. Our trees and everything that's growing, it needs carbon. And also, I think that, we're not going in the right direction because now all of a sudden we're hearing that Carney has said something about going to make the states strong again. Then I'm kind of wondering.
Well,
okay,
he said strong Canada would help make America great again, is what he said. In New York
Canada
last week.
will help. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I just got the impression that he was always helping with Donald Trump from the beginning. Donald Trump wanted to have a liberal to begin with, and it didn't seem like Carney was really doing an awful lot to help us. So our country has been flailing while his investments in the United States have been doing quite nicely. So then I'm wondering, well, like, you're definitely helping the states, but you're not helping us. So we're not getting the breaks that we need to move forward, especially with what's going on, worldwide.
Well, maybe I don't know if I entirely buy what you're pitching there, Marianne. Although I do appreciate your phone call. I mean, if it was being so helpful to the United States, why hasn't there been some kind of breakthrough with the United States? We heard part of his pitch last week when he was in New York City. His pitch to the Trump administration is that Canada's here to help as a reliable, stable partner with everything you need. America, energy, steel, potash, aluminum, critical minerals, all sorts of other things. And Mr. Carney has said that this is the pitch we have made to Trump, but it's not up to us whether Trump responds or whether his people respond. The message was kind of, it's not us, it's them. But it is hard, to your point, to escape the fact that the tariffs are still here. Some of those tariffs are higher than when Trump took office. And the Carney government doesn't seem willing to budge on other irritants that the Trump administration keeps talking about, whether it's digital laws like streaming laws, streaming taxes, changes to supply management. provincial governments that are refusing to sell American-made liquor in their government-owned liquor stores, which is still happening in 8 out of 10 provinces. Elbows up at the grocery store. In dealing with Trump, Carney would say, we made our pitch. We're still waiting to hear back. I hope to hear back from you tomorrow during another Talkback with a brand new topic and more of your calls, and always the latest breaking news on News Radio.